local by testers.
Yep, as a raw, and any of these, as the situation arises.
Yeah, I use Model Masters.
You don't want that. That's like Walmart paint with chips and flakes. It's got like a couple good uses, but steer clear of it. Now, the power of a paint job is part of the skill. That's the one that Nesco made from Hellboy, and I simply just repainted that for the most part. You can see like, they don't show up the sculpting work of some of the artists sometimes. Dry brushing is a thing. Want to talk about dry brushing?
Yeah, dry brushing, all the detail that I sculpted, trying to sculpt in the detail in his clothing, Star Killer's pants, things like that. You want to bring that detail out.
The key is you put a dark base coat down, then you lightly dry brush those lighter shade to kind of give the illusion of light and shadow. Then there's more dry brushing. It's good for hair, it's good for cloth. Then there's a wash. You want to talk about washes?
Yeah, well, let me say about one thing I do is I paint my entire figure black once I've grinded down all the joints and sanded it down. And then I do like a semi-dry brush to get every color you see there. And that's kind of like a pre-weathering because it leaves the black in all the creases.
And this is a personal preference. Some people love dry brushing, some people like washing. My visual look has become a wash. I do a lot of washes because that grimy kind of dirty feel. What do you prefer? What kind of combination of both? I would imagine.
Yes, a combination of both.
Yeah. Same here. I do a combination of both.
I want to show you like the power of how they can be used. That's the exact same wing. On the left, I painted the wing on the left white, and they gave it a gray wash. The wing on the right is painted gray with a white dry brush. And you can kind of see the uses and what you kind of got to pick what is this dust going to be used for. This is simply the Hasbro Gamorrean guard figure that doesn't have the fur diaper on. And I just washed it with black wash paint. A wash is you take a paint and you dilute it heavily with water and you just put it on the figure and it runs through the cracks and crevices to accentuate the detail. That figure is a combination of both, as we said, eventually you're going to graduate to that and use both for whatever the situation arises. Fabric versus metal versus hair. Sculpting, once again.
Yeah, I started off with Super Sculpting, and I recommend anybody that's starting out in this hobby use Super Sculpting first.
I think that's universal. We all start with it. It's easy to find. Walmart has it.
Easy to work with.
Yep.
Then when you want to step up to more of an epoxy type sculpt, something that will harden, you only have a 4-hour cure rate. So you want to be able to know what you're doing before you do it.
This is like you mix two things together and then it gets hard, whereas sculpting, you bake it in your oven. This is another kind of two-part polymer kind of thing when you mix it together, hematite or green stuff, gets hard in a short period of time. Milliput, another one of the two-part polymers. Here I put a quick pro-con list together. What do you sculpt with?
I sculpt with Ace Fix-It.
Ace Fix-It and
Ace Fix-It.
I use epoxy mostly, but Fix-It sometimes. Here you can see the pros and cons as far as work time and the benefits. By the way, we're going to put this on my website, and you guys can do, you'll get access to this later if we're going too fast for you. Sculpting, what you're doing is you're sculpting over an existing figure just because it's easier. There's like a Yoda, I did an Aquaria Yoda a long time ago, and you sculpted over it. Was it quickly?
Yeah, I just basically create a frame and then do this. At this point now, I'm almost doing 100% full sculpt, keeping the articulation of the frame underneath. There's a Boba Fett work in progress. Sucker Punch, that's Baby Doll. I'm working on her. Get the figure just look down and then start sculpting all the other details on it.
That's another thing about what you see. It's like, let's get the idea of sculpting. You're sculpting over existing parts, some more, some less.
And Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. He's still work in progress. It's going to have about 3 or 4 different torsos to him. So be looking out for that.
Just to be clear, like he's doing this on a 3.75-inch scale. He's sculpting on a tiny little thing. Not on a computer, not big, shrinking it down. It's amazing.
And another thing, he sculpts the actual muscles and everything of the figure and then puts clothing on. That's why it's so perfect. He doesn't just go right to the clothing.
This is a technique I do where I roll apes out like fabric, and then I can actually drape it. And apes is so hard it actually doesn't break, whereas if that was sculpting, it would be brittle and fall. This is the line I'm going to show later if we have time. It's the Roman Empire meets the Star Wars prequels. Because I made a medieval line, which would be the original trilogy. There's
Bane, the sculpt finished, and then the head sculpt painted.
Polystyrene I mentioned earlier is plastic. There's my Captain Rex, Roman Emperor.
Nice.
And it's polystyrene and a lot of part swapping and paint in that regard. casting. You can make molds of things, or making casts of them. You make rubber, silicone molds, you make resins, you crank out some pieces. This is amazing. How many of you guys ever use this? You can make a mold of something, add it to your resin, and it shrinks it down. So I could buy a Sideshow 12-inch head and shrink it down to a 6-inch figure, and then double shrink it down to a Kinder-size Hasbro figure. You know, if you want to get more into it, we've all got websites and blogs. You can Google it. There's tons of great forums for it. Real quick Q&A. Do you want to see the Roman figures? We have 1 minute for Q&A. 2 minutes. Do you want to see the Roman figures?
Please.
What? Yeah, if you guys want to do a lineup for the Q&A, how does that work? Or?
Just have them raise their hand.
Raise your hand. Okay. So there's Captain Rex. I want to put these all on the website like in 3 days if you want to get better versions. The camera can take them, feel free. There's the Emperor. There's kind of Padme as a senator. That was an experiment. That is actually like a girl from 300, Gorga. That is an 8-inch figure, and just by like cutting it down and reworking it, I got it down to like 5 inches. Because I was just trying to see if I could do it. Now the idea with is the bad guys are the barbarians attacking the Roman Empire. So we've got the Jango Fett. The guy on the right is kind of the Gothic Darth Maul, and that's the one I'm giving away today. So no one's seen that, someone's going to walk away with it. And so when it blows up in a couple of days, like you'll have the figure on your shelf that's all over the internet. And my Roman Jedi.
Nice.
So question, Darth Maul,
Yeah.
General Grievous.
That's good.
That's awesome. I love that. That one's like, that's not going anywhere. That's my favorite. There's always like, I like that one. It was okay. That's my favorite. All right, questions? Yes.
Do you, like, if somebody requests a particular figure for you guys, do you do that? Has anybody asked you to do that?
Commission work? Do you do commissions?
Yeah, I do commission work.
Yeah, do so.
I'm starting next year doing commission work. I said this year, but I couldn't do it.
Even if it's just like one specific figure?
That's all we do. We don't make molds of these. We make one of them. Like this Darth Maul is a one of a kind.